In this video, we will have a look at the brand equity dimensions and we will have a simplified navigation of the Garmin brand. This is a broad model, suggested or simplified model of brand equity. And as you can see, it also briefly summarizes each of the dimensions. So we have brand loyalty, brand awareness, brand quality, brand associations, and other proprietary. In the literature, there are various other dimensions like trust that can also be added to this model, or one we will also cover in this video, which is price value for money. You can see the arrows point to from these 5 dimensions, which concludes a brand's equity. And from this equity, the implications are, for example, it provides value to a customer by enhancing a customer's interpretation or processing of information, confidence in the purchase decision, and user satisfaction. Satisfaction, coincidentally, is also a determinant of brand equity. It also has the implication of providing value to the firm by enhancing efficiency of marketing programs, brand loyalty, prices or margins, brand extensions, trade leverage, and competitive advantage, because a brand with a higher equity or improved equity in the consumer's mind will enjoy loyal customers and a competitive advantage of being the first or preferred choice. Coincidentally, we are also busy with research where we are trying to establish wearable activity tracking brand equity. And coincidentally as well, we are focusing on 4 of these exact elements, but instead of other proprietary, we focused on price value for money. So we will also have a look at describing each of these dimensions briefly and tell you exactly how you should measure brand equity, and we will have a look at Garmin specifically, because they also sell wearable fitness trackers. So this is an example of a research model. In the description box below and also repeated on the slides would be the items used in a survey, or we call it a measuring instrument, that you can distribute to a sample of people that use this brand and in actual fact determine this brand's equity through these 5 dimensions. If we have a look at the first one, brand awareness, this is defined as the buyer's ability to identify the brand in sufficient detail to make a purchase. Of course, when it comes to high involvement products, which are higher in price and requires a bit of consideration before purchasing, you need to be able to recognize or recall a brand and actually, step 1, be aware of a brand. Brand awareness also refers to the strength of the brand's presence in the consumer's mind. Obviously, if they're not aware of your brand, they will likely not purchase that. But there are opportunities to create recognition for this in the aisle or in the shop. Other authors also define brand awareness as the ability of the individual to recall a brand name in a product category. For example, if they are looking to purchase a GPS, a fitness tracker, even a smartwatch, they need to be able to recall Garmin as a possible option. Keller then also defines brand awareness as a consumer's ability to identify a brand under different conditions. If they don't want a smartwatch, but they want a smart scale, then they should be able to recall brand Garmin. 2 major determinants of the successful brand awareness would be brand recognition and brand recall. The image you see on the screen contains 3 different brands of fitness or activity tracking devices, also smartwatches. And then as a brand, you need to ensure that people actually recognize that the first one and the third one are actually Garmin, the second being Fitbit, and the 4th one being Apple. So they need to recognize among competing brands that a specific device is a Garmin brand. Or if they tell someone about a new idea to purchase a smartwatch or a fitness device, that they should recall Garmin as the brand. How do we measure consumer-based brand equity in terms of brand awareness? This would be the typical items we would use in our measuring instrument. For example, you distribute your survey and people will answer or respond to these 4 or 5 items, depends on your scale size. In terms of brand awareness, they would respond in terms of, I can recognize Garmin among other competing wearable activity tracker brands. Now, this can be on a Leica type scale ranging from 1 to 5, 6, or 7, from strongly disagree to strongly agree. So it would more or less be, well, if they are aware of the brand and can recognize this, they would say strongly agree, a 5 or a 6. Then the second item there, I am aware of Garmin. So this would kind of be a yes or no, but in terms of a scale, they would say strongly agree. Or strongly disagree if they have never heard of Garmin, because a lot of these brands have not successfully diffused in the South African consumer market. The third item there, I am familiar with Garmin. A lot of people resonate with Garmin in terms of custom or the old school GPS devices you plug into your car. The last item there, Garmin comes to mind when I think of wearable activity trackers, or smartwatches or fitness bands. In the past, Garmin or TomTom would be the first brand to come to mind when you think of purchasing a common GPS. Now, in this case of a new consumer segment, in terms of wearables, consumers would have to answer whether Garmin comes to mind when they think of purchasing a wearable fitness tracker. Then, based on these scaled items, we will determine the average of these items, not to get into statistics too much now. But then if this is higher than, for example, out of 6, it would be or need to be above 4, then we can say Garmin's brand awareness is quite high or high enough to sufficiently equate to brand equity amongst the sample. If we look at brand association, this refers to the aspects of the brand that are linked to in a consumer's memories to the brand. According to 2 authors, brand association includes product attributes, customer benefits, user, lifestyle, product classes, competitors, and countries. These associations assist consumers to process and retrieve information about a brand, serve as a basis for differentiation, provide a reason to purchase them, and create positive feelings towards the brand. So we have several different types of association. So product attributes. If we think of Garmin, it would be navigation, or now with these wearables, it would be the heart rate, the sleep monitoring, and so forth. The intangible aspects, for example, being part of the Garmin community is quite a big deal. Then customer benefits, relative price, use application, user or the customer, their lifestyles, the celebrity or the person, their personalities, the product class. Garmin devices have quite a high class or image, the competitors, the country or geographic area. How do we actually measure brand association in terms of consumers? So in terms of consumer-based brand equity, we measure brand association with the following items. So people would state on their same Likert scale whether they think Garmin is a unique brand. So they would rate this from 1 to 6 or 5, 6 or 7. So maybe strongly agree in my case, or if people don't think Garmin is and they are loyal to, for example, Fitbit, then they would have a different type of answer because it depends on the consumer's perception. The second item there, Garmin has a very unique brand image compared to competing brands. Yes, they do. All of them have, because they need to differentiate. Then they would also answer, I like the brand image of Garmin. And then some characteristics of Garmin come to mind quickly. Now this can be confused with brand awareness in terms of recognition or recall, but remember, with association, we need to, in our mind, to associate with the image, the logo, personality, and all the things mentioned. So this is why you measure it with one of these items. Also, I can quickly recall the symbol or logo of Garmin, because if you have an association, this should be scored quite high on the scale. The last item there, I have no difficulty in imagining Garmin in my mind. So they have a strong or not so strong association, depends on their scores. If we have a look at loyalty, which is such a crucial element to determining brand equity, we would say that a few authors state the concept of brand loyalty refers to the consumer's unconditional commitment and a strong relationship with the brand, which is not likely to be affected under normal circumstances, with the key being normal circumstances. If something happens, for example, a few years ago, there was a breach in Garmin's security where people's banking information was hacked because you get Garmin Pay, and then maybe consumers' loyalty might shift a bit, depends if they were affected poorly or not. Even with the breach, a lot of consumers just changed the security or passwords and just moved on and forgot about it. So brand loyalty is a measure of the attachment that a consumer has to the brand. You know in your own mind a brand that you are loyal to. It doesn't matter depending on the price, you will still pay that price and therefore you are loyal. So this is your attachment. Brand loyalty is not necessarily measured or confirmed by repeat purchases of the brand. Now for Garmin, it doesn't mean you're going to go each month or each year to buy a new watch. It is instead a psychological commitment to the brand. For example, if someone asks you, listen, I'm considering buying a smartwatch, I'm also considering buying a wearable tracker. Which brands do you consider? And Garmin, as a loyal customer, would first come to mind when you provide a suggestion. Now, we also refer to commitment levels in terms of loyalty. Different levels of loyalty, if you will. The committed buyers, if we think of the escalator concept, is the highest on this escalator or on the ladder. They purchase and support this brand no matter what. There are also consumers who like the brand, so they also support the brand and at this stage do not consider competitors at all. We then get satisfied buyers who, maybe if someone else has a massive sale on Fitbits or Apples or Samsungs, then maybe they will change, but maybe not. And this then boils down to habitual buyers who are really those who are bargain hunters rather. So if they don't get a Garmin at a good price, then maybe they will consider a different brand with similar features like the Santo or Polar. Then we have switchers or price-sensitive buyers. Now these are the true bargain hunters and they're not really loyal at all unless the price is right. So as soon as a product becomes a bit too much for their price ceiling, they would just find a cheaper alternative. How do we measure brand loyalty in terms of consumer-based brand equity? Well, we would ask some of the following questions and customers again, or consumers rather, would rate this on a scale. So they would rate whether they consider themselves to be loyal to Garmin specifically. So if they are not and they are those price sensitive customers, then maybe they will score a 2 or 3. But those who are truly hardcore committed users, they will score a 5 or a 6. Well, they also will rate whether Garmin is always their first choice. And then I will not buy other brands if Garmin is unavailable at the store. And that's totally my personal preference. I will rate that very high. Then I'm willing to buy Garmin even if its price is a little higher than that of its competitors. Well, yes. If you are a hardcore Garmin loyal fan, then yes, you will pay the premium. I intend to remain a customer of Garmin, and that is a true statement of loyalty because you will not consider switching for any reason whatsoever. And then again, if the averages are quite high for the entire sample, you would say that brand loyalty will definitely have an impact on brand equity for Garmin. Then we have perceived quality. The fact is, perceived quality is a consumer's perception of the overall quality or superiority of the products and services offered in the market compared to alternative products. If we think of all of the alternatives that Garmin have, for example, competitors, we have Santo, Coros, we have Fitbit, we even venture into the smartwatch sphere with the Apple, Samsung, Huawei. So what or how is the overall quality of Garmin perceived? So with perceived quality, this is more or less what it's all about. And it's a very important asset for brands as it reaffirms positive brand associations. This perceived quality is a total driver of the brand's financial performance because they can charge premium prices and again, this will have a higher gap for profit margins. Quality is a core concept in building customer value and satisfaction and thus a competitive market advantage because while people are willing to spend more, they expect to get quality for that premium price. And naturally, a premium quality product will not dissatisfy a customer, albeit we have some duds here and there. The social context suggests that premium price merchandise is considered to be quality products and consumers are willing to pay more for quality, and this goes for all of those luxury brands. We also need to consider the dimensions of quality. If we take a look at the Garmin products on screen, we have one smartwatch there, so the Venue SQ. We have a Garmin cycling computer, probably the 830 or 530. And then we have one of the Forerunner series, and then also a more luxury product, either the Endurance or the Phoenix range, and then the Footpod. If we think of these products, you can already see it is quite durable. It can withstand most weather conditions and even being dropped from 3 stories high and still survive. Also, survive bike crashes. Durability we've covered, then serviceability. All of these products have regular software updates and can be serviced in terms of parts. It's completely reliable, and this is both ways, whether it's for the physical product or the statistics it provides. In terms of performance, does it perform as expected? Does it produce the metrics you are trying to measure? In terms of style and design, a lot of these devices are basically market specific. When we get to the left one, the Venue SQ, it is designed and it kind of emanates the Apple Watches, but then it's quite stylish. Where when we move to the more sports and outdoor watches, it's a bit more rugged to suit the market. So the design will change accordingly. Then the performance, quality, and also features. So Garmin is one of those brands that offer more features than most and also try to continuously innovate. So with all of these elements in mind, consumers will have a perception of this brand's quality. How is this measured? And you would consider all of those elements, and it's going to be measured with these 4 items. A consumer would rate whether Garmin is likely to be extremely reliable, and then in their mind they would basically rely on whether it's the stats or the product not breaking. For example, the straps not tearing and the buttons still working, the screen not scratching because of the thick Gorilla Glass. So whether these devices are reliable. Are Garmin devices exclusive? They would have to rate that. And then also Garmin is likely to be technically advanced. Even if you have no experience with this technology, you can see all of the small metrics on the screen. And obviously then it would lead you to believe that it is technically advanced. Then Garmin is likely to offer an extremely good service. So they have extremely or exceptionally well after-sale service, FAQ pages, support, and even in the Garmin Connect app, you will have that options as well. So whether you think that's true or not, you would rate that. And this is how we determine consumer-based brand equity in terms of perceived quality. Important to note though that this is only one author's scale, where many other perceived quality scales are out there. Then with the last element in that original model, we would refer to other proprietary brand assets. And the 2 main elements you need to consider here would be patents and trademarks. One of the latest updates basically was the article titled Garmin Patent Revealed, with the aim of improving the SpO2 monitoring in smartwatches. Now, for those who are not familiar, this is basically your oxygen saturation, and you have a sensor for that, and it determines your oxygen levels or oxygen saturation levels in your bloodstream, basically. So if you have a look at the screen, that person's was at 90%, and it kind of needs to be a bit higher than that. But that helps to identify a few things, and they have various other patents as linked in the description below. In terms of trademarks, it would be the logo that you see. No one is allowed to reproduce or use this without permission. And then we would have a look at a few on screen, although this is only a very small bucket, or a very small drop in their bucket rather. So the Garmin registered is the Garmin logo, and they also have Ant Plus or Ant technology. And they mention that these are trademarks of Garmin Limited and subsidiaries. And then also Garmin Connect, which is their app, Garmin Express, which is another app you can download various additional widgets and stuff from, the Garmin Index, USB Ant Stick, and so forth and so forth. So these are just examples of other assets that add to the brand's equity. No examples of how to measure this, but just take note of these 2 main things. An additional thing that was added in our own model was the price value for money. Now, we know that premium quality justifies premium prices for many consumers, not all. The question though is, do they think that the brand offers a balance between price and value. And if you have a look at the image on screen, it would be the Phoenix 7, which was the latest version released in 2022. And you can already see its superior quality, and they also have a solar version with that embedded solar panel, which extends the battery life. How do we measure whether people think there's a balance? Well, they would have to answer on a scale whether they think Garmin products are reasonably priced. And depends on your consumer, the answers will vary quite drastically here. If you have a switchable or price-sensitive customer, that if you consider that the watch you see on screen is on special for 12,000 Rand on takealot.com, and this is only the special price, that is it reasonably priced? First of all, they would have to understand what this watch produces or provides in terms of the tech, the features, and everything it's capable of. And even despite that, some people will still argue that, well, maybe it's not reasonably priced because in the back of their mind, they would think, there's a competitor with similar features I can use that is maybe 4,000 Rand cheaper. Then they would rate it a bit lower. But if you have a loyal customer, they would say, yes, they are reasonably priced because I know exactly what I get from this device. Or they can also rate that Garmin offers value for money. If you consider that most of these devices have a shelf life or user life of 6 years, it is a long-term investment with continuous software updates, then yes, most would argue that it offers value for money. Another item there, Garmin provides a good product for the price. And this links with the previous two that, yes, I know I'm going to pay 12,000 Rand for this. Maybe I can do it on credit, but I know it's going to last me 6 years. And I get so much from this. For my training, I will never get lost. I can be part of the Garmin community. I can share my stats and so forth and so forth. So yes, it's a good product for the price. Then using Garmin products is cost effective, which again relates to the same point. If I consider I can use this device for at least 6 years and considering I can resell it for a great price afterwards when I upgrade or change devices, then yes, considering I get software updates and all of these specs and stats and sensors, then yeah, I think Garmin products are cost effective. So this is how this will be determined in terms of the price value for money variable. Now remember, there are so many other aspects you can measure. For example, brand satisfaction or product satisfaction, trust, brand love, word of mouth communications, all of those elements contribute to a brand's equity. This was only a summary of a few. In our simplified model of Garmin's brand equity, we will measure, for example, the brand awareness, brand association, quality perception, brand loyalty, price value for money. And once we get our feedback in terms of our questionnaires, we can tender to Garmin and say, okay, this is what a specific sample thinks of your brand, and this equals or equates your brand equity. And that is why we need to conduct research, and that is why these brands need to continue to conduct research and to improve their place in the market. So hopefully after watching this extremely long video, I hope you understand some of the elements that equate to brand equity. And then if you have any questions about these, post it in the comments below. Also a reminder of all of the links in the description box. Thanks for watching.